The sound of my father's voice still echoes in my head even now. Get out. We don't need you. The words cut deeper than any knife could, especially since they came just moments after I'd told them I'd lost my job at Anderson & Co. due to company-wide layoffs. I was 26, had worked there for 3 years as a loan officer, and had been helping my parents with their mortgage payments for the past year. But none of that mattered to them. All they saw was failure. I can find another job, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The severance package will cover next month's contribution to the mortgage. After that what, Sarah? My mother's voice dripped with disappointment. You'll find another mediocre job? Meanwhile, your sister Jessica is making partner at her law firm at 29. Ah yes, Jessica. The golden child. The one who could do no wrong. The fact that our parents had remortgaged their house to pay for her law school seemed to escape everyone's memory. I have some interviews lined up. I started, but Dad cut me off. Interviews? He laughed bitterly. You know what? This might be a blessing in disguise. You've been using our house as a crutch, living here rent-free, acting like you're helping us with those tiny contributions to the mortgage. Tiny contributions? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've given you $2,000 every month for the past year. And Jessica gives us $5,000. Mom shot back. She knows how to take care of family. What they conveniently forgot to mention was that Jessica lived in her own luxury apartment while I had stayed home, partly to help them keep their house. The market crash had hit them hard and their mortgage payments had nearly doubled. Maybe it's time you grew up, Dad said, his voice cold. Pack your things and leave. We don't need your help anymore. I stood there stunned. You can't be serious. Very serious, Mom added. Jessica offered to cover the entire mortgage. We should have accepted months ago instead of letting you play hero with your pocket change. I looked around the living room at the family photos where Jessica always stood front and center, at the wall of her achievements, at the single photo of my college graduation tucked away in the corner. Something inside me broke, and then reformed harder and clearer than before. Without a word, I walked upstairs to my room. I had always been practical. Most of my important documents and valuables were already organized in a secure file box. I grabbed it, threw some clothes into a suitcase and walked back downstairs. My parents stood by the door as if afraid I might try to stay if they didn't physically show me out. You'll regret this, I said quietly. Dad scoffed. The only thing we regret is letting you think you were actually helping us. Get out. I walked to my car, loaded my belongings and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I watched my childhood home disappear, along with any remaining illusions about my family's love being unconditional. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that my layoff from Anderson & Co. wasn't quite what it seemed. Yes, the company was letting people go, but I had been offered something different. A chance to join a new venture, a startup mortgage company that was planning to revolutionize the industry. My boss, Michael Anderson himself, had pulled me aside 3 days earlier. Sarah, he'd said, I'm leaving to start my own company. I want you to come with me. You understand this business better than anyone else here. You see opportunities where others see risks. I need someone like you. I hadn't given him an answer yet. The startup world was uncertain, and I'd been worried about maintaining my ability to help my parents with their mortgage. Well, I thought as I drove toward the city, that's not a concern anymore. I pulled into a coffee shop parking lot and took out my phone. My hands weren't shaking anymore as I dialed Michael's number. That offer still open? I asked when he answered. Of course, he said. Does this mean you're in? I smiled, thinking of my parents' dismissive faces, of Jessica's smug superiority, of all the years I'd spent trying to prove my worth to people who would never appreciate it. I'm in, I said. But I have some ideas about how we can make this company something really special. I'm listening, Michael replied. And so, sitting in my car, homeless but far from helpless, I began outlining my vision for what would become one of the most innovative mortgage companies in the country. My parents had just kicked out their last chance at salvation, but they wouldn't realize that for another 3 months. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's becoming exactly what your family needs most, right when they can no longer reach you. 3 months can change everything. In my case, it changed more than even I could have imagined. The new company, Phoenix Mortgage Solutions, grew faster than anyone expected. Michael's industry connections combined with my innovative approach to loan restructuring created something unique in the market. While traditional mortgage companies were still operating on outdated models, we introduced flexible payment plans, AI-driven risk assessment, and most importantly, genuine human understanding of each client's situation. I threw myself into the work, using all the pain and anger as fuel. My small apartment became my war room, walls covered with market analysis and competitor research. I worked 18-hour days, 7 days a week. When other executives went home, I stayed, reviewing applications, finding patterns, creating solutions. "You're a machine," Michael said one evening, finding me still at my desk at midnight. "But you need to pace yourself." I just smiled and kept working. What he didn't understand was that this wasn't just work for me. It was redemption. My strategy was simple but effective. We targeted struggling homeowners who had been rejected by traditional banks, offering them viable refinancing options. Word spread quickly. Within weeks, our client list grew from dozens to hundreds. Then came the game changer. "Sarah," Michael called me into his office one morning. "The board was impressed with your performance. They want to fast-track you to Chief Operations Officer." I looked up from the file I was reviewing. After just 2 months. He smiled. "You've brought in more business than our entire sales team combined. But there's more." He paused, his expression turning serious. "I'm stepping down as CEO." My heart stopped. "What? Why?" "Health issues," he said quietly. "Nothing critical, but my doctor's been warning me about stress levels. I need to step back." He leaned forward. "The board wants you to take over." I sat there, stunned. "Me? A CEO? You've practically been running things already. The board sees it, I see it. You're ready." The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of meetings, paperwork, and preparations. I was about to become the youngest CEO in the mortgage industry at 26. The press releases were ready, the announcements prepared, but I requested one small delay. "Give me a week before going public," I asked Michael. "There's something I need to handle personally." That something walked through our doors exactly 3 months after they'd kicked me out. My parents, looking considerably more worn than I remembered, came to beg for a mortgage extension. I watched them on the security cameras as they entered the lobby, my mother clutching her designer handbag, a gift from Jessica, no doubt. My father trying to maintain his dignity despite the obvious desperation in his stance. "Mr. and Mrs. Wilson?" The receptionist greeted them. "Please have a seat. The CEO will see you shortly." They sat in our sleek waiting area, probably assuming they'd meet Michael Anderson, whose name they'd seen in our advertisements. What they didn't know was that those ads were already being updated. I took my time reviewing their file one last time. Their situation was worse than I'd imagined. Jessica, their perfect daughter, had indeed offered to cover their mortgage for 2 months. Then she'd bought a vacation home in the Hamptons and suddenly couldn't spare the extra cash. The interest rates had risen again. They'd missed 2 payments. Their house, my childhood home, was weeks away from foreclosure. I straightened my Armani suit. No more discount store clothes for me, and walked to the conference room where they waited. Through the glass walls, I could see them practicing their plea, rehearsing their story. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door. "About that loan extension," I said, watching as their heads snapped up. The color drained from my father's face. My mother's handbag slipped from her fingers, hitting the floor with a dull thud. "Sarah," she whispered. "Actually," I said, sitting down at the head of the table, "it's Ms. Wilson now. Or CEO Wilson if you prefer to keep things professional." I smiled, not warmly but not cruelly either. "Now, shall we discuss your application?" My father's mouth opened and closed several times before he found his voice. You work here?" "Work here." I couldn't help but laugh. "Dad, I own 30% of this company. Your mortgage application? Sitting on my desk. Along with about 50 others just like it. The difference is, those people didn't kick their daughter out 3 months ago." We didn't know," my mother stammered. "Clearly," I replied, opening their file. "Now let's look at your numbers. 3 missed payments, interest rate adjustment coming up, and..." I paused, looking at them over my reading glasses. "A rather interesting note here about your other daughter's withdrawal of financial support." They squirmed in their seats, looking nothing like the confident parents who had thrown me out of their house. My father's hands trembled slightly as he reached for the water glass in front of him. What happened to Jessica's support? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. I thought she was giving you $5,000 a month. Wasn't that why you didn't need my pocket change anymore? Sarah, please. My mother's voice cracked. We made a mistake. We were wrong. I held up my hand, silencing her. Let's keep this professional. Your application, like all others, will be evaluated based on merit. Though I must say your numbers don't look good. We can explain, Dad started, but I cut him off. Explain what? How you remortgaged your house to pay for Jessica's law school. Or how you rejected my help because it wasn't grand enough. Or maybe you'd like to explain how Jessica's New Hampton house was more important than your mortgage payments. The silence in the room was deafening. Through the glass walls, I could see other executives watching, trying to appear busy while stealing glances at the unfolding drama. The interesting thing about being CEO, I continued, closing their file, is that I get to see everything. For instance, I know that Jessica hasn't just stopped helping with the mortgage. She's actually been asking you for money. $20,000 in the past month alone. Money you didn't have. My mother's face crumpled. She said she needed it for her firm's buy-in. And you gave it to her, even though you couldn't make your own mortgage payments. I shook my head. Some things never change. We're sorry, Dad said, his voice small. We were wrong about you. About everything. I stood up, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The view from the 50th floor was spectacular, a daily reminder of how far I'd come. You know what the worst part was? I asked, not turning around. It wasn't the rejection or the comparison to Jessica or even being thrown out. It was realizing that you never actually saw me. You never saw what I was capable of. We see you now, Mom whispered. I turned back to face them. No, you see the CEO. You see the person who can save your house. But 3 months ago I was the same person with the same capabilities, the same determination. You just couldn't see past your own prejudices. I walked back to the table and pressed a button on the intercom. Linda, please bring in the papers. My assistant entered moments later with a thick folder. I opened it, revealing 2 sets of documents. You have 2 options, I said, my voice professionally detached. Option 1, we foreclose on your house. Given the current market, you'll lose everything you've put into it. Option 2, we refinance your mortgage at a reasonable rate, extend the terms, and you keep your home. They stared at the papers, hope beginning to dawn on their faces. However, I continued, option 2 comes with conditions. First, no more money to Jessica. Not a penny. Second, you'll attend financial counseling. Our company provides it free to clients. And third, I paused, making sure I had their full attention. You'll never again presume to judge someone's worth based on their bank account or job title. Anything, Dad said quickly. We'll do anything. I pushed the refinancing papers toward them. Sign here. And initial here. As they signed, their hands shaking, I felt no triumph, no satisfaction. Just a quiet certainty that I was doing the right thing, both as a CEO and as a daughter. Congratulations, I said when they finished. You've just gotten a second chance. Don't waste it. They stood up, looking uncertain whether to try to hug me or maintain professional distance. I made the decision for them, extending my hand for a businesslike shake. The receptionist will show you out, I said. Your first financial counseling session is next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Don't be late. As they walked out, I heard my mother's muffled sobs and my father's attempts to console her. Through the glass, I watched them leave, noticing how they'd aged in just 3 months. Or maybe I was just seeing them clearly for the first time. Linda came in to collect the papers. Everything okay, Ms. Wilson? I smiled, genuine this time. Yes, everything's perfect. Please make sure their counselor knows to take special care with their case. That evening, as I sat in my office watching the sunset paint the city gold, my phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. How dare you make conditions about my money? I blocked her number without responding. A week later, the press release went out announcing my position as CEO. The photo they used showed me standing in front of our building, confident and composed. It made the front page of the business section, which I knew my parents would see. But I didn't care anymore. I had built something meaningful, something that helped people. And in the process, I had rebuilt myself. The family photos in my office now showed my real family. The team that had believed in me supported me and helped me grow. Michael, Linda, our hardworking staff. These were the people who saw my worth from the beginning. Sometimes I thought, looking out at the city lights, the family you choose is more valuable than the family you're born into. And sometimes being kicked out is just the push you need to soar. As for my parents, they never missed another mortgage payment or counseling session. They learned to live within their means, to say no to Jessica, and most importantly, to see people for who they are, not what they have. Me. I kept building, growing, helping others who needed a second chance. Because in the end, success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. They say time heals all wounds, but sometimes it just gives you perspective. 1 year after that meeting, I received a letter from my parents. Inside was a worn photograph of me at age 7, proudly showing off my first piggy bank. On the back, my father had written, "We missed seeing the signs of your greatness. Thank you for teaching us to look harder." I keep that photo on my desk now, not as a reminder of past hurts, but as proof that people can change. Last week, I approved a new company initiative, the Second Chance program, helping families restructure their mortgages before they hit crisis. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't just success. It's using that success to help others avoid the same pain you endured. When people ask me how I built my company so quickly, I just smile and say, sometimes you need to lose everything to find out what you're really worth. And that's a lesson worth more than any mortgage.